Android, operating system for cellular telephones and tablet computers. Android began in 2003 as a project of the American technology company Android Incorporated, to develop an operating system for digital cameras. In 2004 the project changed to become an operating system for smartphones. Android Incorporated was bought by the American search engine company Google Incorporated in 2005. At Google, the Android team decided to base their project on Linux, an open-source operating system for personal computers. Android is an open-source and Linux-based operating system for mobile devices such as smartphones and tablet computers. Android was developed by the Open Handset Alliance, led by Google, and other companies. Android offers a unified approach to application development for mobile devices, which means developers need only develop for Android, and their applications should be able to run on different devices powered by Android. Android is a mobile operating system based on a modified version of the Linux kernel and other open-source software, designed primarily for touch-screen mobile devices such as smartphones and tablets. Android is developed by a consortium of developers known as the Open Handset Alliance, though its most widely used version is primarily developed by Google. It was unveiled in November 2007, with the first commercial Android device, the HTC Dream, being launched in September 2008. At its core, the operating system is known as Android Open Source Project, AOSP, and is free and open source software, FOSS, primarily licensed under the Apache license. However, most devices run on the proprietary Android version developed by Google, which ship with additional proprietary closed-source software pre-installed, most notably Google Mobile Services, GMS, which includes core apps such as Google Chrome, the digital distribution platform Google Play, and the associated Google Play Services development platform. Firebase Cloud Messaging is used for push notifications. While AOSP is free, the Android name and logo are trademarks of Google, which imposes standards to restrict the use of Android branding by uncertified devices outside their ecosystem. Over 70% of smartphones based on Android Open Source Project run Google's ecosystem, which is known simply as Android, some with vendor-customized user interfaces and software suites, such as TouchWiz and later One UI by Samsung and HTC Sense. Competing ecosystems and forks of AOSP include Fire OS, developed by Amazon, Color OS by Oppo, Origin OS by Vivo, Magic UI by Honor, or custom ROMs such as Lineage OS. The source code has been used to develop variants of Android on a range of other electronics, such as game consoles, digital cameras, portable media players, and PCs, each with a specialized user interface. Some well-known derivatives include Android TV for televisions and Wear OS for wearables, both developed by Google. Software packages on Android, which use the APK format, are generally distributed through proprietary application stores like Google Play Store, Amazon App Store, including for Windows 11, Samsung Galaxy Store, Huawei App Gallery, Cafe Bazaar, GetJar, and Aptoide, or open-source platforms like F-Droid. Android has been the best-selling OS worldwide on smartphones since 2011 and on tablets since 2013. As of May 2021, it had over 3 billion monthly active users, the largest installed base of any operating system in the world, and as of January 2021, the Google Play Store featured over 3 million apps. Android 13, released on August 15, 2022, is the latest version, and the recently released Android 12.1/12L includes improvements specific to foldable phones, tablets, desktop-sized screens and Chromebooks. Android Incorporated was founded in Palo Alto, California, in October 2003 by Andy Rubin, Rich Miner, Nick Sears, and Chris White. Rubin described the Android project as having tremendous potential in developing smarter mobile devices that are more aware of its owner's location and preferences. The early intentions of the company were to develop an advanced operating system for digital cameras, and this was the basis of its pitch to investors in April 2004. The company then decided that the market for cameras was not large enough for its goals, and 5 months later it had diverted its efforts and was pitching Android as a handset operating system that would rival Symbian and Microsoft Windows Mobile. Rubin had difficulty attracting investors early on, and Android was facing eviction from its office space. Steve Perlman, a close friend of Rubin, brought him $10,000 in cash in an envelope, and shortly thereafter wired an undisclosed amount as seed funding. Perlman refused a stake in the company, and has stated, "I did it because I believed in the thing, and I wanted to help Andy." In 2005, Rubin tried to negotiate deals with Samsung and HTC. Shortly afterwards, Google acquired the company in July of that year for at least $50 million. This was Google's best deal ever according to Google's then Vice President of Corporate Development, David Lowy, in 2010. Android's key employees, including Rubin, Miner, Sears, and White, joined Google as part of the acquisition. Not much was known about the secretive Android Incorporated at the time, with the company having provided few details other than that it was making software for mobile phones. At Google, the team led by Rubin developed a mobile device platform powered by the Linux kernel. Google marketed the platform to handset makers and carriers on the promise of providing a flexible, upgradable system. Google had lined up a series of hardware components and software partners and signaled to carriers that it was open to various degrees of cooperation. Speculation about Google's intention to enter the mobile communications market continued to build through December 2006. An early prototype had a close resemblance to a BlackBerry phone, with no touch screen and a physical QWERTY keyboard, but the arrival of 2007's Apple iPhone meant that Android had to go back to the drawing board. Google later changed its Android specification documents to state that touch screens will be supported, although the product was designed with the presence of discrete physical buttons as an assumption, therefore a touch screen cannot completely replace physical buttons. By 2008, both Nokia and BlackBerry announced touch-based smartphones to rival the iPhone 3G, and Android's focus eventually switched to just touch screens. The first commercially available smartphone running Android was the HTC Dream, also known as T-Mobile G1, announced on September 23, 2008. On November 5, 2007, the Open Handset Alliance, a consortium of technology companies including Google, device manufacturers such as HTC, Motorola, and Samsung, wireless carriers such as Sprint and T-Mobile, and chipset makers such as Qualcomm and Texas Instruments, unveiled itself, with a goal to develop the first truly open and comprehensive platform for mobile devices. Within a year, the Open Handset Alliance faced two other open-source competitors, the Symbian Foundation and the Limo Foundation, the latter also developing a Linux-based mobile operating system like Google. In September 2007, Information Week covered an Evaluserve study reporting that Google had filed several patent applications in the area of mobile telephony. Since 2008, Android has seen numerous updates which have incrementally improved the operating system, adding new features and fixing bugs in previous releases. Each major release is named in alphabetical order after a dessert or sugary treat, with the first few Android versions being called Cupcake, Donut, Eclair, and Froyo, in that order. During its announcement of Android KitKat in 2013, Google explained that since these devices make our lives so sweet, each Android version is named after a dessert, although a Google spokesperson told CNN in an interview that it's kind of like an internal team thing, and we prefer to be a little bit, how should I say, a bit inscrutable in the matter, I'll say. In 2010, Google launched its Nexus series of devices, a lineup in which Google partnered with different device manufacturers to produce new devices and introduce new Android versions. The series was described as having played a pivotal role in Android's history by introducing new software iterations and hardware standards across the board, and became known for its bloat-free software with timely updates. At its developer conference in May 2013, Google announced a special version of the Samsung Galaxy S4, where, instead of using Samsung's own Android customization, The phone ran stock Android and was promised to receive new system updates fast. The device would become the start of the Google Play Edition program, and was followed by other devices, including the HTC One Google Play Edition, and Moto G Google Play Edition. In 2015, Ars Technica wrote that earlier this week, the last of the Google Play Edition Android phones in Google's online storefront were listed as no longer available for sale and that now they're all gone, and it looks a whole lot like the program has wrapped up. From 2008 to 2013, Hugo Barras served as product spokesperson, representing Android at press conferences and Google I/O, Google's annual developer-focused conference. He left Google in August 2013 to join Chinese phone maker Xiaomi. Less than 6 months earlier, Google's then CEO Larry Page announced in a blog post that Andy Rubin had moved from the Android division to take on new projects at Google, and that Sundar Pichai would become the new Android lead. Pichai himself would eventually switch positions, becoming the new CEO of Google in August 2015 following the company's restructure into the Alphabet conglomerate, making Hiroshi Lockheimer the new head of Android. On Android 4.4 KitKat, shared writing access to microSD memory cards has been locked for user-installed applications, to which only the dedicated directories with respective package names, located inside Android/data/ remained writable. Writing access has been reinstated with Android 5 Lollipop through the backwards incompatible Google Storage Access Framework interface. In June 2014, Google announced Android One, a set of hardware reference models that would allow device makers to easily create high-quality phones at low costs, designed for consumers in developing countries. In September, Google announced the first set of Android One phones for release in India. However, Recode reported in June 2015 that the project was a disappointment, citing reluctant consumers and manufacturing partners and misfires from the search company that has never quite cracked hardware. Plans to relaunch Android One surfaced in August 2015, with Africa announced as the next location for the program a week later. A report from The Information in January 2017 stated that Google is expanding its low-cost Android One program into the United States, although The Verge notes that the company will presumably not produce the actual devices itself. Google introduced the Pixel and Pixel XL smartphones in October 2016, marketed as being the first phones made by Google, and exclusively featured certain software features, such as the Google Assistant, before wider rollout. The Pixel phones replaced the Nexus series, with a new generation of Pixel phones launched in October 2017. In May 2019, the operating system became entangled in the trade war between China and the United States involving Huawei, which, like many other tech firms, had become dependent on access to the Android platform. In the summer of 2019, Huawei announced it would create an alternative operating system to Android known as Harmony OS, and has filed for intellectual property rights across major global markets. Under such sanctions, Huawei has long-term plans to replace Android in 2022 with the new operating system, as Harmony OS was originally designed for Internet of Things devices, rather than for smartphones and tablets. On August 22, 2019, it was announced that Android Q would officially be branded as Android 10, ending the historic practice of naming major versions after desserts. Google stated that these names were not inclusive to international users, due either to the aforementioned foods not being internationally known, or being difficult to pronounce in some languages. On the same day, Android Police reported that Google had commissioned a statue of a giant number 10 to be installed in the lobby of the developer's new office. Android 10 was released on September 3, 2019, to Google Pixel phones first. In late 2021, some users reported that they were unable to dial emergency services. The problem was caused by a combination of bugs in Android and in the Microsoft Teams app. Both companies released updates addressing the issue. Android's default user interface is mainly based on direct manipulation, using touch inputs that loosely correspond to real-world actions, like swiping, tapping, pinching, and reverse pinching to manipulate on-screen objects, along with a virtual keyboard. Game controllers and full-size physical keyboards are supported via Bluetooth or USB. The response to user input is designed to be immediate and provides a fluid touch interface, often using the vibration capabilities of the device to provide haptic feedback to the user. Internal hardware, such as accelerometers, gyroscopes, and proximity sensors are used by some applications to respond to additional user actions, for example adjusting the screen from portrait to landscape depending on how the device is oriented, or allowing the user to steer a vehicle in a racing game by rotating the device, simulating control of a steering wheel. Android devices boot to the home screen, the primary navigation and information hub on Android devices, analogous to the desktop found on personal computers. Android home screens are typically made up of app icons and widgets. App icons launch the associated app, whereas widgets display live, auto-updating content, such as a weather forecast, the user's email inbox, or a news ticker directly on the home screen. A home screen may be made up of several pages, between which the user can swipe back and forth. Third-party apps available on Google Play and other app stores can extensively retheme the home screen, and even mimic the look of other operating systems, such as Windows Phone. Most manufacturers customize the look and features of their Android devices to differentiate themselves from their competitors. Along the top of the screen is a status bar, showing information about the device and its connectivity. This status bar can be pulled, swiped, down from to reveal a notification screen where apps display important information or updates, as well as quick access to system controls and toggles such as display brightness, connectivity settings, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cellular data, audio mode, and flashlight. Vendors may implement extended settings such as the ability to adjust the flashlight brightness. Notifications are a short, timely, and relevant information about your app when it's not in use, and when tapped, users are directed to a screen inside the app relating to the notification. Beginning with Android 4.1 Jelly Bean, expandable notifications allow the user to tap an icon on the notification in order for it to expand and display more information and possible app actions right from the notification. An All Apps screen lists all installed applications, with the ability for users to drag an app from the list onto the home screen. The app list may be accessed using a gesture or a button, depending on the Android version. A Recents screen, also known as Overview, lets users switch between recently used apps. The recent list may appear side by side or overlapping, depending on the Android version and manufacturer. Many early Android OS smartphones were equipped with a dedicated search button for quick access to a web search engine and individual apps' internal search feature. More recent devices typically allow the former through a long press or swipe away from the home button. The dedicated option key, also known as menu key, and its on-screen simulation, is no longer supported since Android version 10. Google recommends mobile application developers to locate menus within the user interface. On more recent phones, its place is occupied by a task key used to access the list of recently used apps when actuated. Depending on device, its long press may simulate a menu button press or engage split-screen view, the latter of which is the default behavior since stock Android version 7. Native support for split-screen view has been added in stock Android version 7.0 Nougat. The earliest vendor-customized Android-based smartphones known to have featured a split-screen view mode are the 2012 Samsung Galaxy S3 and Note 2, the former of which received this feature with the Premium Suite upgrade delivered in TouchWiz with Android 4.1 Jelly Bean. When connecting or disconnecting charging power and when shortly actuating the power button or home button, all while the device is powered off, a visual battery meter whose appearance varies among vendors appears on the screen, allowing the user to quickly assess the charge status of a powered off without having to boot it up first. Some display the battery percentage. Many, to almost all, Android devices come with pre-installed Google apps including Gmail, Google Maps, Google Chrome, YouTube, Google Play Music, Google Play Movies and TV, and many more. Applications, apps, which extend the functionality of devices, and must be 64-bit, are written using the Android Software Development Kit, SDK, and, often, Kotlin programming language, which replaced Java as Google's preferred language for Android app development in May 2019, and was originally announced in May 2017. Java is still supported, originally the only option for user space programs, and is often mixed with Kotlin, as is C++. Java or other JVM languages, such as Kotlin, may be combined with C/C++, together with a choice of non-default runtimes that allow better C++ support. The Go programming language is also supported, although with a limited set of application programming interfaces, API. The SDK includes a comprehensive set of development tools, including a debugger, software libraries, a handset emulator based on QEMU, documentation, sample code, and tutorials. Initially, Google's supported Integrated Development Environment, IDE, was Eclipse using the Android Development Tools, ADT, plugin. In December 2014, Google released Android Studio, based on IntelliJ IDEA, as its primary IDE for Android application development. Other development tools are available, including a native development kit, NDK, for applications or extensions in C or C++, Google App Inventor, a visual environment for novice programmers, and various cross-platform mobile web applications frameworks. In January 2014, Google unveiled a framework based on Apache Cordova for porting Chrome HTML5 web applications to Android, wrapped in a native application shell. Additionally, Firebase was acquired by Google in 2014 that provides helpful tools for app and web developers. Android has a growing selection of third-party applications, which can be acquired by users by downloading and installing the application's APK, Android Application Package, file, or by downloading them using an application store program that allows users to install, update, and remove applications from their devices. Google Play Store is the primary application store installed on Android devices that comply with Google's compatibility requirements and license the Google Mobile Services software. Google Play Store allows users to browse, download, and update applications published by Google and third-party developers. As of January 2021, there are more than 3 million applications available for Android in Play Store. As of July 2013, 50 billion application installations had been performed. Some carriers offer direct carrier billing for Google Play application purchases, where the cost of the application is added to the user's monthly bill. As of May 2017, there are over 1 billion active users a month for Gmail, Android, Chrome, Google Play and Maps. Due to the open nature of Android, a number of third-party application marketplaces also exist for Android, either to provide a substitute for devices that are not allowed to ship with Google Play Store, provide applications that cannot be offered on Google Play Store due to policy violations, or for other reasons. Examples of these third-party stores have included the Amazon App Store, GetJar, and SlideMe. F-Droid, another alternative marketplace, seeks to only provide applications that are distributed under free and open source licenses. In October 2020, Google removed several Android applications from Play Store, as they were identified breaching its data collection rules. The firm was informed by International Digital Accountability Council, IDAC, that apps for children like number coloring, Princess Salon and Cats and Cosplay, with collective downloads of 20 million, were violating Google's policies. At the Windows 11 announcement event in June 2021, Microsoft showcased the new Windows subsystem for Android, WSA, that will enable support for the Android Open Source Project, AOSP, and will allow users to run Android apps on their Windows desktop. The storage of Android devices can be expanded using secondary devices such as SD cards. Android recognizes two types of secondary storage: portable storage, which is used by default, and adaptable storage. Portable storage is treated as an external storage device. Adoptable storage, introduced on Android 6.0, allows the internal storage of the device to be spanned with the SD card, treating it as an extension of the internal storage. This has the disadvantage of preventing the memory card from being used with another device unless it is reformatted. Android 4.4 introduced the Storage Access Framework, SAF, a set of APIs for accessing files on the device's file system. As of Android 11, Android has required apps to conform to a data privacy policy known as scope storage, under which apps may only automatically have access to certain directories, such as those for pictures, music, and video, and app-specific directories they have created themselves. Apps are required to use the SAF to access any other part of the file system. Since Android devices are usually battery-powered, Android is designed to manage processes to keep power consumption at a minimum. When an application is not in use, the system suspends its operation so that, while available for immediate use rather than closed, it does not use battery power or CPU resources. Android manages the applications stored in memory automatically. When memory is low, the system will begin invisibly and automatically closing inactive processes, starting with those that have been inactive for the longest amount of time. Lifehacker reported in 2011 that third-party task killer applications were doing more harm than good. Some settings for use by developers for debugging and power users are located in a Developer Options sub-menu, such as the ability to highlight updating parts of the display, show an overlay with the current status of the touch screen, show touching spots for possible use in screencasting, notify the user of unresponsive background processes with the option to end them, show all ANRs, i.e. apps not responding, prevent a Bluetooth audio client from controlling the system volume, disable absolute volume, and adjust the duration of transition animations or deactivate them completely to speed up navigation. Developer options are initially hidden since Android 4.2 Jelly Bean, but can be enabled by actuating the operating system's build number in the device information 7 times. Hiding developers' options again requires deleting user data for the settings app, possibly resetting some other preferences. Despite its success on smartphones, initially Android tablet adoption was slow, then later caught up with the iPad, in most countries. One of the main causes was the chicken or the egg situation, where consumers were hesitant to buy an Android tablet due to a lack of high-quality tablet applications, but developers were hesitant to spend time and resources developing tablet applications until there was a significant market for them. The content and app ecosystem proved more important than hardware specs as the selling point for tablets. Due to the lack of Android tablet-specific applications in 2011, early Android tablets had to make do with existing smartphone applications that were ill-suited to larger screen sizes, whereas the dominance of Apple's iPad was reinforced by the large number of tablet-specific iOS applications. Despite app support in its infancy, a considerable number of Android tablets, like the Barnes & Noble Nook, alongside those using other operating systems, such as the HP Touchpad and BlackBerry Playbook, were rushed out to market in an attempt to capitalize on the success of the iPad. InfoWorld has suggested that some Android manufacturers initially treated their first tablets as a frankenphone business, a short-term low-investment opportunity, by placing a smartphone-optimized Android OS, before Android 3.0 Honeycomb for tablets was available, on a device while neglecting user interface. This approach, such as with the Dell Streak, failed to gain market traction with consumers, as well as damaging the early reputation of Android tablets. Furthermore, several Android tablets such as the Motorola Cum were priced the same or higher than the iPad, which hurt sales. An exception was the Amazon Kindle Fire, which relied upon lower pricing as well as access to Amazon's ecosystem of applications and content. This began to change in 2012, with the release of the affordable Nexus 7 and a push by Google for developers to write better tablet applications. According to International Data Corporation, shipments of Android-powered tablets surpassed iPads in Q3 2012. As of the end of 2013, over 191.6 million Android tablets had sold in 3 years since 2011. This made Android tablets the most sold type of tablet in 2013, surpassing iPads in the second quarter of 2013. According to StatCounter's web use statistics, as of 2020, Android tablets represent the majority of tablet devices used in Africa, 70%, South America, 65%, while less than half elsewhere, e.g. Europe, 44%, Asia, 44%, North America, 34%, and Oceania/Australia, 18%. There are countries on all continents where Android tablets are the majority, for example, Mexico. In March 2016, Galen Grumman of InfoWorld stated that Android devices could be a real part of your business. There's no longer a reason to keep Android at arm's length. It can now be as integral to your mobile portfolio as Apple's iOS devices are. A year earlier, Grumman had stated that Microsoft's own mobile Office apps were better on iOS and Android than on Microsoft's own Windows 10 devices. Google has developed several variations of Android for specific use cases, including Android Wear, later renamed Wear OS, for wearable devices such as wristwatches, Android TV for televisions, Android Things for smart or Internet of Things devices, and Android Automotive for cars. Additionally, by providing infrastructure that combines dedicated hardware and dedicated applications running on regular Android, Google have opened up the platform for its use in particular usage scenarios, such as the Android Auto app for cars, and Daydream, a virtual reality platform. The open and customizable nature of Android allows device makers to use it on other electronics as well, including laptops, netbooks, and desktop computers, cameras, headphones, home automation systems, game consoles, media players, satellites, routers, printers, payment terminals, automated teller machines, and robots. Additionally, Android has been installed and run on a variety of less technical objects, including calculators, single-board computers, feature phones, electronic dictionaries, alarm clocks, refrigerators, landline telephones, coffee machines, bicycles, and mirrors. Wii, a video game console running Android, became one of the most successful Kickstarter campaigns, crowdfunding $8.5 million for its development, and was later followed by other Android-based consoles, such as Nvidia's Shield Portable, an Android device in a video game controller form factor. Android comes pre-installed on a few laptops. A similar functionality of running Android applications is also available in Google's Chrome OS, and can also be installed on personal computers by end users. On those platforms, Android provides additional functionality for physical keyboards and mice, together with the Alt-Tab key combination for switching applications quickly with a keyboard. The mascot of Android is a green Android robot, as related to the software's name. Although it has no official name, the Android team at Google reportedly call it Bugdroid. It was designed by then Google graphic designer Irina Block on November 5, 2007, when Android was announced. Contrary to reports that she was tasked with a project to create an icon, Block confirmed in an interview that she independently developed it and made it open source. The robot design was initially not presented to Google, but it quickly became commonplace in the Android development team, with various variations of it created by the developers there who liked the figure, as it was free under a Creative Commons license. Its popularity amongst the development team eventually led to Google adopting it as an official icon as part of the Android logo when it launched to consumers in 2008. Thank you for watching this video.